Welcome back to Terror and Urban Myths. Glad to have you all here for another chilling tale. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give us a like if you're enjoying the show. And if you know anyone who likes a good scare, be sure to spread the word. Tonight we're stepping into a story that blurs the lines between the ordinary and the truly unsettling. The legend of the Incessant Door.
It's a story that starts with grief. A family gathered for a wake in an old, somber house, mourning the passing of their grandmother. Imagine the weight of their sorrow, the hushed whispers, the air thick with unspoken emotions.
And within that already heavy atmosphere, something strange begins to happen. A door, known for being notoriously difficult to open, starts swinging open and shut, seemingly with a mind of its own.
This isn't just a creaky hinge or a draft. Those familiar with the house insist this particular door has always been almost impossible to break, so right away, you're left questioning, what could possibly be causing this?
Could it be the house settling? Old houses do tend to have their quirks, don't they? Or is there something more at play, something connected to the heightened emotions of the wake?
It's a question that becomes even more unsettling when you consider the experiences of a young woman present at the wake. She becomes increasingly convinced that there's an unseen presence in the house, something interacting not only with the door, but with her as well.
She starts noticing other strange occurrences. The volume on the television suddenly blasts at full volume without anyone touching it. An unexplained chill follows her, particularly in the bathroom, as if a cold breeze has suddenly materialized. And then there's the footprint.
Not just any footprint, but a tiny one, far too small for any adult in the house, appearing inexplicably on a freshly laundered towel.
A tiny footprint, like a child's perhaps. That image immediately sends shivers down my spine. It's as if something unseen is playing a game, leaving behind these subtle but unnerving clues.
And that tiny footprint raises some interesting questions. In many cultures, child spirits are often depicted as mischievous, even malevolent entities. Think of the stories of poltergeists, for example, often associated with restless young souls.
So is this child spirit simply playing pranks? Or is there something more unsettling behind its actions? I'm already feeling a sense of unease, and the story doesn't stop there.
As the night progresses, the activity intensifies. The young woman describes feeling pressure on her bed, as if someone unseen has sat down beside her. This isn't just a subtle presence anymore. It's a bolder, more intrusive interaction.
That detail is truly chilling. It taps into that primal fear we all have, of the unseen observer, the idea that something is watching us, aware of us, but remaining just out of sight. It's a common thread in so many horror stories and urban legends, isn't it?
It absolutely is. This fear of the unseen is deeply embedded in our psyche, and it makes you wonder, what is the nature of this presence? Is it simply mischievous, or is there a darker intention behind its actions?
We've got this grieving family, a door that won't stay shut, and these increasingly unsettling events. Is there a connection between the grandmother's passing and this strange activity? Is it her spirit, perhaps, trying to communicate or hold on to her home?
That's certainly one possibility. The door being a part of the house for so long could be acting as a focal point for her energy, a way for her presence to linger. Or it could be something else entirely.
This is where things get really interesting. The house itself, a place filled with memories and emotions, could be playing a role in all of this. It's almost as if the very structure is a conduit between the world of the living and the realm of the dead.
That concept of the house as a conduit is fascinating. Old houses, especially those with a long history, are often seen as repositories of energy, places where the past can bleed into the present. Think about the materials used in older homes, the wood, the stone. These materials are known to hold on to energy, to retain impressions of events and emotions that have occurred within their presence.
So we have these unsettling occurrences, this sense of an unseen presence, and the possibility that the house itself is somehow involved. Where do we go from here? What are your initial thoughts on this mystery?
Well, we've only just scratched the surface of this unsettling tale. To delve deeper, we need to consider the broader context. What do we know about lingering spirits? Why might they remain tethered to the physical world? And what role does fear play in shaping our perceptions of the paranormal? The idea of spirits lingering after death, unable or unwilling to move on, is a concept that has haunted humanity for centuries. It's a theme that appears in cultures around the world, woven into folklore, mythology, and even religious beliefs.
It's certainly a compelling idea, isn't it? This notion that some part of us, perhaps our consciousness or our soul, might persist beyond the physical body.
Yeah.
Why do you think we're so drawn to these stories, to the possibility of life after death, of spirits that walk among us?
I think it speaks to a fundamental human need to grapple with the mystery of death.
Yeah.
It's the ultimate unknown, and the idea that some part of us might transcend that finality is both terrifying and comforting.
It's almost as if these stories offer a way to explore those questions that we all grapple with, consciously or unconsciously. What happens after we die? Is there truly an afterlife, and if so, what form does it take?
Precisely these stories, whether we believe them literally or not, provide a framework for contemplating the nature of existence, the relationship between the physical and the spiritual.
And in the case of the Incessant Door, we have these very tangible, very unsettling events that seem to suggest some kind of connection to the deceased grandmother. Could be her spirit, her energy somehow tied to that door, to her former home.
It's certainly within the realm of possibility. The door, as I mentioned earlier, could be a focal point, an object imbued with her essence, a way for her presence to linger. It's been a part of her life, her home, for so long that it's conceivable that some connection remains.
But wouldn't a spirit, if it wanted to communicate, choose a more direct method? Why manifest through a door through these subtle and often frightening events?
That's a valid point, and it leads us to another fascinating aspect of this story, the role of fear. Fear can be a powerful lens through which we perceive the world, particularly when it comes to the unknown. It can heighten our senses, make us more attuned to subtle cues, and even lead us to misinterpret events or sensations.
So are you suggesting that some of the experiences reported in the Incessant Door, like the feeling of pressure on the bed or the sudden chill in the bathroom, could be amplified by the fear and anxiety surrounding the grandmother's death?
It's certainly possible grief itself can be a disorienting experience, a time when our emotions are raw and our perceptions can be skewed. Add to that the inherent eeriness of an old house, the weight of family history, and it's not hard to imagine how even the most mundane occurrences could take on a sinister air.
That makes me think about the power of suggestion. We've all heard stories about haunted houses, about restless spirits. Could it be that these stories, these cultural beliefs, are influencing how we interpret events, even shaping our experiences?
Absolutely. Our beliefs and expectations play a huge role in how we perceive the world around us. If we believe a place is haunted, we're more likely to notice things that confirm that belief, even if there's a perfectly rational explanation.
So how do we separate genuine paranormal activity from the tricks our minds can play on us, especially when we're dealing with a story like The Incessant Door, where the lines between the ordinary and the unexplained seem so blurred?
That's the challenge, isn't it? And it's a challenge that has fascinated researchers and paranormal investigators for decades. There's no easy answer, no single test that can definitively prove or disprove the existence of ghosts or spirits.
So where does that leave us? Are we simply left to grapple with these unsettling stories, to ponder the possibilities, without ever truly knowing the truth?
Not necessarily. While we may never have all the answers, search for them is part of what makes these explorations so compelling. By examining the evidence, considering different perspectives, and acknowledging the role our own biases might play, we can get closer to understanding the nature of these phenomena, even if definitive proof remains elusive.
You know, as we've been talking about the Incessant Door, I can't help but think about all the times I felt a shiver down my spine in an old house, or heard a noise I couldn't quite explain. It makes you wonder if we're all just a little bit sensitive to those unseen energies, those echoes of the past that might linger in certain places.
I think you've hit on something there. Most of us have had those moments, haven't we? A flicker of movement in the periphery, a sound that seems to come from nowhere, that inexplicable feeling of being watched when you're alone. These are primal experiences, deeply ingrained in our subconscious.
And the Incessant Door plays on those fears, doesn't it? It takes something as ordinary as a door and transforms it into a source of mystery and dread. It reminds us that even in the most familiar settings, the boundaries of reality can feel thin, porous.
Exactly. The story taps into that unease, that uncertainty that lies beneath the surface of our everyday lives. It forces us to confront the possibility that there might be forces at work that we don't fully understand, forces that might even defy our attempts at rational explanation.
So what can we take away from this unsettling tale? What do you think the listener should be pondering as they turn off the lights tonight?
I think it's a reminder that there's still so much we don't know about the world, about the nature of consciousness, about the mysteries of life and death. And that's okay. Embracing that uncertainty, that sense of wonder, can be a powerful thing.
It encourages us to keep an open mind, to be willing to consider possibilities that might challenge our preconceived notions.
Precisely. And it reminds us to pay attention to those subtle cues, those moments that make us question the nature of reality. Maybe there's a particularly rational explanation. Maybe it's just our imagination playing tricks on us. But maybe, just maybe, there's something more at play.
It's that maybe that keeps us coming back to these stories, isn't it? The possibility that there's more to the universe than meets the eye.
Absolutely. And those possibilities, even if they remain unproven, can enrich our lives, challenge our perspectives, and make us more attuned to the wonders that surround us.
Well, listeners, there you have it. The unsettling tale of the Incessant Door is a story that lingers, that invites us to contemplate the boundaries between the known and the unknown. It's a reminder that even in an age of scientific advancement, there are still mysteries that defy easy answers.
So the next time you find yourself in an old house, take a moment to listen. Pay attention to the creaks and groans, to the subtle shifts in the atmosphere. You never know what stories those walls might be whispering, what secrets they might be holding.
And on that note, we'll bid you farewell. For this week's exploration of terror and urban myths, be sure to subscribe and leave a like if you enjoyed this episode. And if you dare, share it with a friend who loves a good scare. Until next time, sleep tight and keep an ear out for any incessant doors.